Hello everyone, I have another 5 cards, 1 kit to share today. This is Simon Says Stamped card kit of the month for May 2022, Brushed Flowers. This is the inspiration sheet that comes with it. So for card number 1, I'm using a card base from my own stash. The other 4 cards, I used the white cardstock that comes in the kit to make the card bases. Here I have a piece of black cardstock. I can't remember if this comes in the kit. It might be from my stash. And I'm just doing a scant 1/8 of an inch border there. And here's some of the pattern paper. It's it's like pattern cardstock. It's thicker. And such beautiful paper that a lot of the cards that I make are just showcasing this beautiful paper. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to get this kit, was just the paper. And I find the stamp set is really useful too with the sentiments. So I stamped out this Just a Note to Say Hello stamp, and I used the embossing powder that comes in the kit and then my VersaFine Onyx Black to emboss that, heat emboss it. I have a piece of cheesecloth I was showing you and a ribbon rose, but you could also use like a die cut rose or some other embellishment. So I'm just layering the sentiment here. I fussy cut it out and it took me a couple times. There's a lot of solid space, so you see my mist stamps on the back there. I'm going to pop it up with some foam tape and just add a little glue to make sure my cheesecloth stays put once I put everything down. And then I place the sentiment down, and then I just need to add my embellishment here, and I'm pulling out some tacky glue because this is all kind of fabric and I wanted some serious adhesion here so it will stay. And then I'm going to show it to you up close, and I have a clothespin here to hold my rose down while it's drying. So for card number 2, I have sped this up so much you can't even imagine, because I'm ink blending, which seems to take forever. But I'm using the rose color and citrine, and I'm going for kind of a sunset look. And then here towards the end of the ink blending, I'm adding a little bit of that ocean at the top. Makes a nice purple hue. And then I'm pulling the stamp set out again, and I'm using the You Are Special, So Special to Me. And then I'm going to use a few of the flower stamps. And I'm going for a silhouette look here. So I'm just using the VersaFine Onyx Black and then the detail powder in clear that came in the kit. And I'm doing a bit of embossing here. And I'm doing it kind of piece by piece. There's a stem that goes really well with this flower head that I'm going to do next. But you can't really do them at the same time, at least not lining them up perfectly there. So I put the stem on next, and then I will heat emboss that in the black with the clear black or VersaFine Onyx Black ink with the clear embossing powder. That embossing powder is great stuff. I do have a clear. I think I have one from Nouveau, but I like this stuff. And then here is like a long kind of floral branch there that I put on. And then once I heat emboss this, I bring in the stamp set, and I'm kind of looking to see what I need to fill it in. And so because the stamp set's on a clear backer, I can just hold it up and kind of look at the different floral pieces to see what I want to put there in like the bottom left, and then right there on the kind of the right of that floral cluster. And I use this leafy one, and then kind of it looks like a little bud with leaves, the one on the far left. And then I go ahead and finish embossing that. And every time I pour the embossing powder on, it's clinging to some of the others, but that's okay because they're all the same anyway. So here's my card base, and I made it top folding, and I cut that out of the cardstock that comes in the kit. And then I'm going to use a black panel that covers the full A2 size of the card. And then just glue on my colorful sunset-like panel. And it's a very simple card. It does take quite a bit of time with all that ink blending and stamping, but it's really nice, and it's flat, easy to mail. So for card number 3, again the card base I made, and I think the black did come in the kit, but I'll have to verify. And then this is one of the pattern papers that I've cut down to fit inside that black panel. And I actually need to glue on the colorful pattern paper first, because I'm going to bring in some ribbon. And I really wanted to use kind of like just a thin width grosgrain ribbon, but apparently I have very little in the way of black ribbon in my stash. And so the only one I could find that was the right thickness that I wanted was this rickrack. But it works. And so, you know, you don't have to use rickrack. That wasn't my original idea, but it is what I had. And I don't want to go out and buy something for this. I want to use what I have. So I'm using some double-sided tape to hold on the pieces of ribbon. And so I was just looking where I need to put it and then putting the tape on the back of this panel and then just running the ribbon across so it's held on there. That one kept coming off on me, but I get it on eventually. And I think I decided a little later it's a little bit high for where I wanted, but I kind of try to move it down a little bit later. But then I'm also going to use the double-sided tape and just put it all over the back of this panel because I've got all that dimension with the ribbon. I want it to stay put. So I want to get some good adhesion here. So I'm placing that down onto my card base, and then I can pull those backers off the rest of the way. And then to finish off the card, I have a couple die cuts here. I have from the Hero Arts January 2020 card kit. There were all these dies I got it. There's just this nice kind of rose looking one, and you could use any old flower punch or whatever focal point you wanted there. Maybe even a heart would be nice there. Now I'm pulling out the inks again. These inks came in the kit and this cool little holder. That was one of the things that made me want to get this kit also, was this holder, and it works fabulously. So I really like that. But I'm just adding a little bit of the blue ocean color in to give the flowers more depth because it's very 2D and I don't know. And then I add in a little more of the rose, which you hardly can see. It just is kind of to tone back some of the blue, I guess. And here you can see it up close. Very subtle, but I just wanted to give it a little more something. And I think I'm going to add a foam circle dot onto the back of that and place it right in the juncture between the two ribbons. And then I have this word die, and this one I have no idea where I got it. I've had it in my stash. I probably got it like Tuesday morning or something a long time ago. So I've cut it out in white and black, and I'm just going to offset it a bit so that it has a little bit of a shadow there. So I glue those together and then add the glue, and then this is when I'm like, oh, I wish that bottom ribbon was a little lower. I think I had moved it down slightly. But yeah, it works out. And for this card, I think I'm actually going to add a stamp on the inside that says Happy Mother's Day, and I'm going to send it to my mom, I think. Because I think it looks really nice, and it'll be great for that. And this is how it turns out. And we're on to card number 4, and this is, I used the doll pink cardstock to make the card base for this one, and then I just have some white for my stash for a panel, and then some black. And I think this pattern paper was one of my favorites, but I liked both sides equally. That turquoise, love that color. So what do you do with that? I thought this style, or this sketch of card would be perfect because it uses like I think it's like 2.5 by 3 3/4 or something. I don't remember the exact measurements of those rectangles, but it's similar to like a journaling card size, and then you just offset them, and they're the focal point. So I get both the turquoise and the butterflies, and love how that turns out. And I'm just going to stick them up in the top half. Again, I pull out the stamp set, and using this flower, I stamped it in the VersaFine Onyx Black and embossed it in clear. And then I took that circle punch you saw earlier and just punched the circle out there so that I can put it over here as kind of a focal image where the two pieces of card meet. And for my sentiment, again, the stamp set, I stamped out thank you and for everything, and you can see them here on the stamp set. I put the thank you up on some foam squares, and that I stamped in just embossing ink and some detail white powder that I have for my stash. And then that banner die, I think it's from that same Hero Arts kit, but you know, I could just cut it out also, but having that die, it fits perfectly for narrow sentiments, so I used that. And that finishes off card number 4. And for card number 5, again, the card base made from the doll pink cardstock, a black panel, and then look at this beautiful, this is my other favorite pattern paper. I love the distressing look, the kind of, it looks like there's stamping on there. It's just text printed on there, but I just love that look. And so I didn't want to cover up too much on this card. And so I have the stamp set again, Sending Hugs. Now, I stamped it out in the VersaFine Onyx Black and then embossed it with the clear. It is on vellum paper there. Now, looking back, because I ended up doing some ink blending, just a little bit of pink there, I think you could do this just on the white card and not mess with the vellum and the double stick adhesive and get a similar look. But I originally did the vellum and then I was like, oh, I need something to have it stand out more, and then I'm rounding the corners there. But the nice thing having the vellum there is with my butterfly, I also punched it out twice. This is a butterfly punch I have. I punched it out in the black and in the vellum, so it at least ties in that vellum nicely. It's very subtle. If you don't know there's vellum on the sentiment, you might not notice that, but it goes well because I have the butterfly. I have some vellum on the butterfly too. And then I decide the edges were just too white. I use this finger topper to add a little black ink and very carefully tape it on to my card because that is pigment ink, so it does not dry very quickly. So that's why I'm pushing it down with a scrap paper. And that is how this card turns out. I will bring all 5 cards back in and have you take a look at them. Thanks again for watching today. As always, have a wonderful and creative day. I hope you enjoyed seeing these cards, and if you got this kit, let me know. What are you doing with it? I still have at least one of the pattern papers and some scraps that I think will be great for little journals. I just need to find the time to do it. Have a great day. Bye!